Thank you all so much for being here this morning. I'm Sherry Jordan. I'm the CEO for the Edmond Chamber. And I'm thankful that we have Zoom technology and we're able to do this virtually. Our next women's breakfast, Women Mean Business event, will be in June, and it will be on June 28th, I think, whatever the third Thursday is in June, and we will be in person. So we hope to see all of you there. If at the end of June you're still not comfortable with that, we will have a Zoom option for you as well. So you can do it either way, whatever you're the most comfortable with. Our speaker will be Dima Ramadan, and I think she's going to be on the call this morning as a participant, but she is the co-founder of DBG Construction, and she has a great message for us and a great a presentation ready for us. So I hope you'll be able to join us for that as well. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here. Our presenting sponsor for the Women Mean Business series is Alliance Bank. And we have with us Bridget Roseberry to speak on behalf of the bank. So I will turn it over to you, Bridget.
Thank you so much, Sherry. And good morning, everybody. Is that how I kind of like let's get all hyped up this morning a little bit from our offices or locked in our bedrooms here like I am. I just want to thank everybody for being here and the Chamber for this opportunity for us to help support women in the community. It's so important. One of the things that we do at Alliance is we have a Trailblazer movement. And so if you guys are interested in social media at all, we have an Instagram, and it highlights and talks all about women in our communities. It's at Be a Trailblazer. So if you are on Instagram, go ahead and follow us there. We post content about women in our community. We love to highlight trailblazers, and how exciting that we have a trailblazer speaking this morning, Robin. So I'm super excited to hear from her. And then just one last thing with our Trailblazer account. We have a Trailblazer account for all you trailblazing business women. And we just got a new debit card for that account. It was designed by a local artist there in Edmond. It's Ellie Art Studios, and this is the design she came up with. It's kind of hard to see through here, but we'll get it posted on social media. But it's super cool, and again, we're just wanting to support women in our local communities. So if there's anything we can ever help you all do, whether it's with a business account or just some friendly advice, or if there's anything that the bank can do to help support your organization, just please let us know. We're here for you, and especially during this like super weird Zoom pandemic world that we're all living in. So thank you so much, Sherry, and to the Chamber.
Thank you, Bridget. We appreciate your support and your flexibility with these events as they transitioned. And we are very thankful for OU Medical. They were gracious enough to switch their month that they were the gold sponsor and took this month for us. And so please give a warm welcome to Leslie Buford with OU Medical Edmond.
Hey everyone, what's been going on? Nothing's been happening at the hospital lately, so obviously it's been a weird, wild ride for us at OU Medical the last couple of months. We're lucky that we're able to reopen to the general public, so we are reopened. We've been COVID-free since April 4th at the hospital, and still of course have stringent screening standards in place, but we are the COVID-free hospital for the OU medical system. Any patients testing positive for COVID are sent downtown now that we're over the initial hump, if you would, of infections. So we're back up and rolling in normal operations in ER, outpatient imaging, outpatient surgery, things like that. Obviously, there's still some restrictions in place regarding visitors, and I know everyone just really wants to go bebop into a hospital right now, but we do have restrictions there. But if you have any sort of health issue that you're concerned about, please know that the hospital is safe, the ER is safe to come to. Please don't delay medical care because you might be concerned about the COVID virus. The hospital is probably the safest place you can be right now because of the screening standards that we do have in place. We are just so thankful for the Edmond community. I don't think I've ever been better fed in the last 2 months because the community stepped up and donated food to us like crazy. So we've been very thankful for all the support that we've gotten the last 2 months from the community in terms of just gratitude, meals, everything like that. So thank you all for your support.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I just want to remind everyone to keep your microphones on mute so that everyone will be able to hear the speaker okay. And I'm very thankful to have Robin Roberson here with us today. You guys have probably already seen her bio, co-founder of We Go Look. She's done so many amazing things over her life, and I've gotten to know her really well. Over these past few months, we were in Leadership Oklahoma together, and I know her to be a woman of very high integrity. She has gone through a lot of things in her life, and she is just a shining example, a great role model for everyone. And Robin, you have been through a lot recently, and I want to thank you for your grace and your steadfastness, and I want to thank you for being here with us today. And I want to turn it over to you. I can't wait to hear.
Thanks. Sherry's not supposed to make me cry this morning. Thank you. That was, I appreciate the kind words, and it's pretty exciting to be here among just a bunch of, I would say, boss babes, right? But definitely, I think, just to kind of talk a little bit about the challenges this morning of being a female entrepreneur or, business leader. I'm excited about that. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen here for you guys. All right. There we go. So again, thanks, Sherry. I really appreciate it. It is definitely an interesting time, I think, right now to be an entrepreneur or business leader, and not just due to COVID, right? But think about the advent of technology and the need for these new solutions that have occurred during this time. I think a lot of people, are getting used to Zoom and things like that. But, I want us to all kind of take a step back and start thinking about the customer experience, how that's evolving as well. And I believe that each one of us here have the ability to make an impact, whether it's small or large. And frankly, I don't believe any impact is too small when it comes to really experiencing more what I would call direct human experience instead of a customer service experience. I want us to all start thinking more of the person, right? And in that way, it really helps us deliver an exceptional service to our customers and, of course, our business partners. Anyway, I really want to discuss innovating from within, the ability to pivot, the importance of self-confidence, and then talk a little bit about this human experience versus a customer experience. But what I'd really like for each one of us to take away today is a plan of action, how to either make a difference in your personal life or even at the office, of course. And I wanted to use the SPF 2020 because I feel like we've all needed some extra coverage against this year. And it feels like even though we might keep continuing to get burned a little bit, I think we just have to keep lathering even more on. So I think it also depends on the size of change you decide to implement. So I just want everyone to grab their bottle of SPF 2020 with me for sure. So talk a little bit about just my journey and where I came from. Like Sherry mentioned, a lot of people really know me as for We Go Look and my success there. And over the past 10 years, I have won numerous awards. Innovator of the Year here in Oklahoma, Insurance Business Award, Hot 100. I'm typically, in fact, I don't know which month, it's been about 2 years, I've been on the top 50 global InsurTech influencers, which is pretty exciting here from Oklahoma. And, I was able to grow the company to over 45,000 independent contractors, and then sold for a little over 36 million a few years ago. But I really think that my story of providing exceptional customer experience started long before that, right? I'm from Oklahoma, born and raised here on a small farming community. I don't know if anyone here knows where Gracemont is, out by Anadarko. Near Chickasha, so western Oklahoma. But I began making and selling yarn belts in school colors And I learned if I could, wrangle my friends into helping me and make more, I could sell more belts. And so I started learning about early product customization and rapid production. And then I learned about what a distribution problem was whenever the principal told me I couldn't sell yarn belts anymore. And so I had to stop making and creating those yarn belts, but I really started reading a lot of about other people. I read autobiographies. I was just fascinated. Lee Iacocca, Chuck Yeager. I started reading about all these things that people were doing. And I wanted to ultimately be a trick rider in the circus. But that didn't work out. Although sometimes I feel like I am still in a circus all the time, a 3-ring circus. So I guess I do live out vicariously through that. But I grew up on a trailer home on my grandfather's farm. I had, I would say, not an ideal childhood. I was adopted by my father. My biological father lived in Florida. And I struggled with a lot of, I would say, domestic issues. And although I was, the top of my class, I would say that my journey became very, very difficult. And I moved out at age 16 to live with my grandmother in Sulphur. And again, while I was at the top of my class, I did become pregnant in college. I didn't graduate, and I eventually had 2 sons, and both of their fathers passed away from car accidents. And so where my first big lesson really came in was really all about innovation. And when we talk about innovation, a lot of people, I think, look at it, like coming up with new ideas that work. But I really feel like a lot of innovation has to come from within, and you have to change your viewpoint, your place of where you're coming from a lot of times to really make big differences, right? So for me, my big aha moment was, I was doing really, really well. I started working for the Washington Post. I quickly advanced with the Washington Post, and I loved working for them. I transferred to Joplin, Missouri. I transferred to Mississippi. I kept kind of climbing up that totem pole, became the youngest recipient of the Washington Post President's Club 2 years in a row. And I really didn't feel like there was going to be anything different for me. I loved it so much. But whenever my youngest son's father passed away, I realized that I had to change something. If you're a mom, you guys know there's so much to do between bath time and basketball. And I coached both of my son's basketball teams until they could play for high school. You got basketball, homework, cooking supper. It was just, it's just so much to do. And I realized that I just had to have more time and more flexibility because I was missing some important things with my kids. And so it took a lot of soul searching and that innovating from within to decide, for me to have the most flexibility would be to work for myself and to create my own schedule. And so I took a lot of the things that I'd been learning with my customers at the Washington Post, and I just started a consulting company. So it wasn't a huge step from what I was doing, but it was a huge step away from a consistent paycheck and that stability. And that was what was really hard. And what's funny is really looking back, I don't know what I was so worried about, except for when you're in the moment and you have all that responsibility, you feel, I think you feel, or I felt, responsibility on those kind of decisions were just harder to make. Now I would be like, well, heck, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get a different job doing the same thing, because I'm more confident in my ability to do whatever I need to do. But back then it was really hard for me to kind of stop my great steady job and kind of start my own consulting company. That was hard for me, but I did it over time, and it was fantastic. It was difficult at first, but I started learning more, and I picked up several auto dealerships. I had about 21 dealerships, not because I love the car, what is it? I call them car guys. It's a different breed. I love cars, but there was a lot of budget there and they needed a lot of help. And this will date me, but this was back when some of the dealerships didn't even have websites. And so that's really what got me interested in the internet was, really researching these kind of solutions for the dealerships. I was like, you guys have got to check this internet out, check out these organic leads that are coming in. So this was a lot, before the cookies and ad placement and things like that. And you were getting these really great organic leads from people who actually wanted to buy cars off your inventory, and really started focusing on that. So that led me to learn more about CRM tools, those customer relationship management tools, more about how the internet did work, more about search optimization. And it was just a great experience. I learned everything I could, even about fixed operations with all the dealerships. And that helped me later whenever I was working with Hyundai corporate at We Go Look. So in 2009, I had a friend that was looking at a high-end projector on eBay and thought that the seller was misrepresenting it. And, he said, I wish I had someone to go look at that for me. And I said, well, there's got to be a company that provides that kind of solution, and helped him look for, the service provider and couldn't find one, and just started thinking about how fantastic it would be to be able to provide this kind of solution for people just like you and I who were wanting to, purchase something, sight unseen, but weren't quite sure if the item actually existed or was in that type of condition. And I started thinking about, of course, cars and people that were still needing additional information on the lots, but think about those type of people who were wanting to purchase puppies and puppy mills, and I'd been on some bad online dates and all kinds of things. You start thinking about what you could dispatch someone for, and the idea wouldn't go away. And so once again, I had to innovate and decide to jump out on a limb and start We Go Look. So the whole year of 2009, really from August 2009 till December of 2010, I was really trying to work both jobs. Like We Go Look was kind of my side gig, if you will. And that's something I always try to talk to entrepreneurs about, is like, if you really want to start a business, you have to be willing to just devote your complete time to it. I mean, there was not really any time for friends. There was no time for watching, TV shows. I'm glad some of the series from Netflix weren't on, because I would have been tempted to binge watch some of them. But there was, you work your regular job, hang out with your kids, and then you work on your second job. And that's really what I did for that whole year. And finally launched out of beta December 2010 with We Go Look. And I had to 100% then focus on that and let go of my consulting business. And that was hard because I was doing really well. And it was kind of like I was going back to college, making money like I was in college, because when you're an entrepreneur, you don't get to pay yourself much. That's for sure. So that kind of goes to my next slide, is the ability to pivot. So like I mentioned, I'd started We Go Look for people really with eBay in mind, for people wanting to purchase these items. And when Superstorm Sandy hit in 2012, I'd been doing a little bit of work for a bank. We were doing some property inspections, and they called and said, hey, we have JP Morgan Chase has this entire portfolio in New Jersey. Are you able to, get anyone there? And I said, I sure can, because obviously I was working the desk and I knew all of our lookers there. And I was able to get hold of he was FEMA certified, and he got on his bicycle and he was able to get to most of these properties. And literally within 3 business days, we had delivered this portfolio back. And of course I kept my We Go Look logo, the old one, really nice, big and bold on each report. And JP Morgan Chase reached out to me after everything kind of calmed down and said, hey, we really like this custom report, because I'd customized it for the other bank, but they really liked it. And that's when, they reached out to Butler Berger and CBRE, and they said, hey, we want you to start using this We Go Look company as one of our vendors. And I had this aha moment then of, oh, okay, B2B. I really kind of thought all these huge companies had some sort of solution in place that was super efficient and effective. And I started realizing that they didn't. It was very clunky, and people were still using, of course, just they would handwrite something on a piece of paper and fax it in. So the paper might be crooked. You might not be able to read what was on the paper. And let's say you're in Colorado, or even here in Oklahoma, but if at the time, if you were selling medical marijuana, they would want to see if those signs were in the window of the business. Well, you might not need that in another state, but it was still on the form. So I was like, why can't we just customize the form based on jurisdiction, based on state rules, and leverage technology to do those things? Anyway, that's when I started focusing on the B2B part, that really helped me turn. And the reason I like to talk about this is because I had been doing this for 2 years at this point, focused on the individual. And it was difficult to make that true pivot to really just put all my focus on B2B, right? But I did. And I try to tell people that because sometimes you have to listen to your customers, and you have to look at the path of least resistance, or the path of most opportunity. And you might have to change. And it goes back to the innovating from within type thing. How are you really looking at it? A lot of people don't want to change because they feel like their ideas are fantastic. And I thought my idea for helping everybody was amazing. I was like, surely everybody will just buy this instantly. And it was, it takes some time to figure out what really works. So I always like to share this with people because it really does provide new opportunities, in my opinion, if you can learn how to pivot. I also like to talk about confidence. I mentioned a little bit about, when I was growing up, my home life, I did not have really much self-confidence truly until I was about 40, which is sad, but true. And I was doing really well at We Go Look at this point. So I had raised, so let's fast forward another 2 years from my last slide. So I pivoted, focused on B2B, and I picked up some really nice big contracts, and had raised a little over $3 million in the Series A round. And I was able to start hiring the right team members to help me. And this is something to think about too. Always hire people that help you multiply your efforts, not duplicate your efforts. It was difficult for me to learn as I was growing to be able to delegate, because I was like, it's just so much faster if I do it. And I wanted to sit here and train somebody how to do something. It'll just be faster. And I had a great lady in Oklahoma City tell me one time, she kind of summarized it. She said, focus on the $500 hour work. Don't focus on the $50 an hour work. Let somebody else do the $50 an hour work. And all you do is ask yourself before you perform a task, is that $500 or is that $50? And it was hard to have that mind shift, but I did. And that really helped me because I was able to bring in a team that could help me also carry out that $500 hour type work product, but also brought in the people that could help me with the others and perform it the way that I would see it through. So I had this aha moment of, really knowing I didn't have to be an industry expert to be an industry leader when I was preparing for a big meeting. And, it was within the insurance space. And I just didn't really understand the terminology. When you start working with different industries, it's great to have an overview or high level understanding of all the ins and outs and the current challenges they might be facing. But it's different than having an expert in the room that has been in it for decades. And, if you're really trying to help provide solutions, I really always wanted to understand everything I could. Anyway, this was a really big meeting, and I was pretty nervous. And I was sitting there just at my desk, feeling pretty anxious and, thinking through a lot of my presentation. And I sat there and I started thinking, these guys over at Uber and Airbnb, none of them had a background in transportation or hospitality, but they were able to really turn and disrupt both of those industries on top of their head, like almost overnight, just simply by leveraging technology, having a better customer experience at a lower cost. And I was like, wow, that's what WeGoLook's doing. That's what we're doing for field services, right? We were providing these on-demand auto property inspections, notarizations, that's really what we were doing. And when I realized that, I just had this, this wave of confidence just wash over me. And it was like, okay, I might not be an expert in insurance, but I'm a complete expert on WeGoLook. I can tell you everything about it. And I decided that, you don't have to be an expert to be a leader in the field, as long as you're providing, the right type of solutions and are really changing these. And that was a huge aha moment for me. It actually helped. We were helping some of these very large companies change the way that they were performing internal processes. It was a big deal. And I've had so many people come up to me at conferences and just say, you made us look at how we were, our business model, how we were performing and what we were planning for. And you really kind of, WeGoLook at the time has helped evolve this whole virtual desk inspection that's been, I would say, just it's kind of the new thing in insurance. It's been, well, I don't say the new thing, but it's been very popular the last 2 years. And we were very instrumental in kind of getting that movement forward. So that was exciting. But I just want everyone here to understand that, just because you may not know a whole lot about something doesn't mean that you can't be a leader in that field. You just really have to focus on solutions and finding that one piece that you fit in. So I want to talk about customer experience because I always felt like I wanted to provide the very best customer experience possible. I was always the customer's right, and we were going to do everything to make the customer happy. And I started, this is 2020. So about 2 years ago, I went to a really neat, it was called the Human Gathering out in LA. It was a really neat convention. I don't even say it's a convention because there was only about 40 people there, but it was an amazing retreat experience. And I was kind of going through this difficult time. I'd sold WeGoLook. I stayed on with the company I sold to for about 2.5 years, which was too long. And I was having, it was hard. You build this, it's like your baby. You build it, it turns into a toddler, goes to elementary school, go to high school, it's in college. And then when I sold, I felt like, okay, my baby's in college and this company's going to help take it to that next level, because there's only so much I felt like I could do to keep it growing. I needed legal help. I needed a company that had, 70 international locations. I needed a larger dev team and sales team. And I was like, I wanted WeGoLook to have wings. And, but it was hard for me to kind of let go because it was such a big part of my identity. And we went through this exercise, and I know we can't do this because we're virtual. This is fantastic to do, but you'll totally get what I'm trying to tell you when I tell you how the exercise works. And so, I'm at this retreat with these people, and you have to understand there's movie stars there. There's people, I don't know, there's just all kinds of people. Dr. Drew was there. But nobody talked about what we did. Nobody talked about what our jobs were. So if you go to a conference, what's the first thing people do? They look at your name badge, they see where you're from, they see what your position is. And a lot of times people, based on what your title is, will decide to talk to you or not talk to you. And that's always frustrating. I always want to, when I'm at a conference and a guy's staring at my name badge, I want to say, my eyes are up here, but, I don't know if they would get it. But, it's frustrating when people are always just staring at your name badge trying to figure this out. I was like, why don't people want to really get to know people? I love people. I like to hear what's happened to them. I like to understand everything. I really like to be connected to people. And so this exercise was super important, and it helped me be able to step away from We Go Look and realize what I truly loved about We Go Look was that opportunity to create and that opportunity to find these solutions and to build a team around it. And so here's the exercise. So let's just pretend that, and you can do this with someone, and Sherry, I'd love to sometime if you have a chamber breakfast, I could come in and help moderate this exercise. But you just turn to the person next to you, or you find someone that you don't know at all in the room, and you give each other, ideally 10 minutes, but you can do it in 5. And you want to know everything about that person as if your life depended on it. You say, okay, tell me, so Bridget, I would be like, Bridget, in 10 minutes, tell me who you are, right? Or Leslie, in 10 minutes, tell me who you are. And Sherry and I have gotten to know each other some, but I would love to know more about Sherry, so I could still do this with her. But after about 10 minutes, you switch. And when you're done with the exercise, the next step is you get to write each other's obituary. And not to be dark, but to show a point of, was We Go Look going to be in my obituary? I hope not, right? I hope people would remember me for being the mom that I feel like I am, or some of the things that I'm really passionate about. And when you step back and you have someone write that obituary about you after knowing you for 10 minutes, you realize, I don't know, it may not sound like it may be just this life-changing experience to you guys if you're listening to it, but if you do it, it's really powerful, and it helps you focus on, okay, who am I? I'm not We Go Look, right? It's a part of me, sure. It's what I do. And so from that moment on, when I went to conferences, I wouldn't look at the badges. I didn't want to know what their titles were. I wanted to find out who they were. Where were they from? I'd sit at a table at breakfast and really get to know the people that were there. And it's such a different conversation when you start really just wanting to find out about the person and versus, will they help me in my business, right? Are they aligned with me in business? Is it a good networking tool? And what I've found since then, and I feel like I've always been very interested in people. I've always, like, my customers turned into lifelong friends, is when you have that experience, those actually open up a lot more doors, and those type of people are able to help you and you help them, and it's really profound. And I just wanted to share that experience with you guys, because if you're going through anything similar or are looking at, how do I separate or take a customer experience but turn it into a human experience, and we look at these people as individuals versus just statistics, I think that's just important. So I wanted to kind of share that with you guys also. So game changer slide. This was something, so after I exited We Go Look completely, and it's been a year ago this month that I've completely left the company. I'm still on the board. I'm still vice chair of the board, but I'm actually trying to get off of that too. I just need complete separation. Is how do you put all the pieces together of your life experiences to create your very best experience? And I have always been interested in continued learning. And so my business partner, Kenneth, that I hired back in 2015, he was my COO at We Go Look, and he's my partner at Goose and Gander, and also my partner at Array. We have a new technology company, and that's been very fun for me, because again, I realized that the creation of something and finding solutions is what's exciting, and building strong team members, helping people with that career path. Those are the things that make me really happy. And a lot of people go, wow, you're super successful. Why are you still working? I'm like, I'm just passionate about creating change. And so I'm still doing that, but I just really encourage everyone to find out what pieces of the puzzles you need to find to fit into creating your very best life. And I think our lives, and people say this about women, you know, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of like all kinds of women. And I'm like, it seems like they're doing everything. They're like the perfect mom. They still cook. They go to church. They're involved in like 10 boards. I'm like, how do they do it all? I can't do it all. And I learned that a long time ago to be okay with that. I try to do, and I have that good old 80-20 rule of what's really important and focused on, because I couldn't make every single one of my kids' games because might be a really huge opportunity for work, but I would sit down with my kids and explain, this is why I am going to miss your game, is because this is for me, it could be a game changer for the company, which in turn was their future. And they totally were supportive, but finding those pieces of the puzzle that make you happy. And a good example of that is I've always wanted to be a beekeeper. My grandfather was a beekeeper. And finally, I was diagnosed with cancer, and not just one, but 2 different kinds in late January, in the first week of February for the second one. I was like, well, heck, what am I waiting for? So we have a bee hive now. We have our own colony now. And I was like, those are the little pieces of the puzzle that we just have to do and make and fix. And it's funny to see how little things that you focus on like that, how you feel bring your whole life together. So I just encourage each of you to find out what those things are and not delay and put it off. Go do it. If you want to learn how to do yoga, go do it. And then I'm going to kind of go quickly through these next slides, because I know I could talk to you ladies all day, and I want to be sure to answer questions very transparently. But since there are, a lot of business leaders here, I just wanted to talk to you on a couple of things that aren't really part of my typical talk or message that I want to share, but it's about perception. So when we start talking about customers, just remember that experience, that perception that the customer has is really also that brand perception that they have. So we might have the best branding team, but if a customer has a bad experience, that's their perception of your brand. And so, kind of tying in how important these customer experiences are, the human experience, I just want to kind of drill that home, because I've seen so many top business leaders, they're okay if the masses are happy, but maybe 10% aren't. And I'm all still about the extra 10%. So I just wanted to share that with you just as a reminder. I know everyone knows this, but it's just something to keep in mind, especially with all the social platforms out there. You get one negative customer, it can really hurt your brand. And then again, passion. Sherry knows some of my passion for our state. And I will say that Leadership Oklahoma was so fantastic for me. And it really helped me bring around some of those little pieces of that personal puzzle I was talking about, because I would leave every class and go, wow, what can I do as a person to help our state? Because I love our state. And we have so many amazing people. And how do we, I know Governor Stitt wants the top 10. And I'm like, and I think that how do we become that when we have so many statistics that are, we're a top 10, but in all the wrong categories. And so Leadership Oklahoma helped me focus on, how can I truly make a difference? And that's one reason why I stepped out on a limb and went to OESC back in February through this pandemic, even though I had accepted the position, and then I found out about the cancer. I was like, you know what, I committed to this, and I'm going to go in and help drive some change to a very old, stale agency with very old technology. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and the unemployment crisis. So it's been a whirlwind few months. But my passion, I was able to go in and really create and drive a lot of change. And, I feel very good about the things I was able to do. So I'm just still evolving, I think, as a person. And I just wanted everyone here to know I don't think that there's ever any real time or place in our lives where it has to be perfect. I think that we can all make changes in our business every day or in our personal lives every day. And that's really a lot of what I wanted to talk to you about. So just to kind of recap, I hope you guys realize, I know I can pursue new ways of doing things. I know you guys certainly can. And that's, again, from everyday tasks or creating that phenomenal customer experience, taking steps. Again, I just want really everyone to kind of create that best life that you each deserve, by the way. So that's really I will wrap up there, but would love to take some questions from anyone.
Perfect. We have a few questions in the chat box, so I will start with those. So the first one is, how did you know when you were ready to leave We Go Look?
Oh, well, I wasn't ready to leave We Go Look when I sold. That's why I stayed. I had some silent partners who obviously they cashed out and were very happy with that. But I wanted to stay and see it through. Like, my vision was this big global dominating force, if you will. And I had a 5-year employment contract with the new company. Unfortunately, the new company, while it started off great, after about 6 months, if anyone here has read The Innovator's Dilemma by Clay Christensen, if you haven't, it's phenomenal. It's an easy read too. I didn't really understand, if you take a new agile company, small company, and you try to incorporate that into a legacy, slow moving, stale company, that sometimes that transition can be very difficult for the stakeholders at the legacy company. And we were actually disrupting their business model and their own employees. And so we actually there was just a lot going on there. And the last year I was there wasn't fun at all. It was hard for me to wake up in the morning and want to go to work, right? So before, I'd wake up at 5 o'clock. I can't wait to get out the door. And then that last year, I'm like, do I have to go to work today? When you get to that point, when you're like, really, I have to go try to deal with this again today. I think that was it for me, and especially the last 6 months. So I tried making things better for a year, and the last 6 months were really difficult. And had already, been talking to my business partner. We're like, if we can't see changes, and we can't see all these things we've worked so hard on because we were still pushing, we were still trying to make everything work. We had already decided if things weren't better by this last summer, that we would just leave and go do something else. And unfortunately, that's why I knew it was time to leave, when I just consistently didn't want to go to work. So that's the simple answer, but that's how it was.
Love it. So during your time as a single mom with multiple businesses, how did you deal with the stress of the time of growth? And did self-care for you even exist?
Yeah, that was really hard. I felt like I could juggle a lot, but yeah, it's stressful. But at the same time, I loved it. Running back and forth between all the ball fields, like, that's probably my favorite time in my life. Having both kids, running from this field to the other, making sure I could try to get both games in. There's a lot of stress to that. There was a lot of pressure to that. And I hope I don't cry, but I feel like God made me their sole parent. I carried that always. I knew I was their only parent. I think it's different when if you go through a divorce and you don't have kids, but then if your kid's other parent passes away and you're their only parent, you have to be stronger in a different way. And so I had that strength, I think, that was just given to me. And that helped me a lot, really get through all that. Self-care, no. I think that's one reason why I was diagnosed with 2 types of cancer. I think that, I obviously, if I had an extra 30 minutes, I guarantee you I wasn't spending it on myself. I was trying to do something at the house or at work. I always put work and kids ahead of myself. And I wish I hadn't. Someday I hope I can go talk to lots of, especially young women, and say, don't fall into that. Take care of yourself starting now. And if you're, and I'm almost 50, so it's like, so even if we're older, I mean, we can start now, right? So I'm focused on making that part of my life moving forward. But yeah, self-care, I think it's hard for all of us. If we're homemakers, wives, moms, business leaders, business owners, I know that it's hard for all of us because we all feel like there's something else we should be doing. And so I think it's important to always keep yourself out there and take care of yourself moving forward. I will do that.
So we all know that a lot of industries these days are still male dominated. What are some things you've learned that were different in business for you because you're a woman versus a man?
Wow. So I would say I had to work twice as hard, and maybe that's an exaggeration. I feel like I had to work a lot harder than possibly my male counterparts to really prove my worth, right? Something I learned early on. Men don't like it if women complain, but then what's funny is I hear men complain like women, supposedly. And so something that I try to tell really young groups is, if you're going in for a raise, don't go in just asking for a raise. A guy can go out on the golf course and get his raise. It's like, oh yeah, I'll get that paperwork signed. Go in, show what, take facts, take your statistics. Here's how much I saved the company. Here are my sales numbers. Here's whatever your job role is. Go in and show your worth and your value to the company as you are, negotiating for anything. I would say, I've always tried to stay out of the drama. I also think that you have to have a thick skin. Men typically can talk to each other and not get their feelings hurt, but it seems like women will sometimes take a lot of things personally. So, I try to stay pretty business focused and short and to the point in when I'm in professional settings or meetings. That's always really helped me. But I would say, there is still that struggle, unfortunately, but I think it's, we're changing. Go back to the title of, I grew up and everybody was like, my grandmother was amazing. She was like, challenge the status quo, challenge the status quo. She was awesome. And then I grew up and I was like, why can't we change the status quo? Why do we have to challenge it? Why can't we ladies create our own? And I think that we are. I think that we are on our way. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. There might be a few furloughed employees on here or other people who are looking to maybe repivot. Do you have any advice for them on building a business or things they can do as, they're facing maybe some new issues in their life as far as their career goes or their work goes?
Sure. One great thing about being at the state agency was I learned a lot, and this is what excited me about the position in the beginning was OESC is not just helping people through unemployment. It's really, there are a ton of workforce service programs. I had zero idea that there were so many fantastic grants that were out there, and I felt like I looked for them. I was always looking, especially as a female, I was like looking for these type of opportunities. But there are some amazing opportunities with training and getting different certifications at no charge, especially if you've been displaced in oil and gas, transportation, manufacturing, hospitality. There's even more money in those industries. And you can go, there are men and women getting their welding certificates. Like the state's paying $30,000 for them to go to school. I had no idea this happened. So there are huge grants that are available for people. So take this time to really, go online, find a personality test that you might be surprised to find that you would be well suited for a different type of job that you never thought you would be. I had my son take those before he just declared his major. It is interesting to see what those career opportunities might look like. And I think that the personality test, the really good ones, are helpful in helping you decide what would be interesting to you, because you might not know, like I really think I could just be a beekeeper now and have a big farm, honestly, and just make lots of honey. I think I would be really happy doing that. But, so I give that advice, do that, work on your resume. The state also has, OK Job Match is not a great website, but it has a great resume tool inside the website. Or you can go online, there's free resume tools. Make sure your resume looks fantastic. And there are people that want to find new employees right now, because the extra $600 is keeping, a lot of people from going back to work. So now's the time for you to be able to go and get a job if you want one, with certain employers. And on OK Job Match, there are employers that have listed a lot of requirements and job openings as well. But yeah, I would definitely look at this time to kind of explore within, and then think about something that you could do remotely, right? Coursera has great courses online that are inexpensive. You might become someone who could help in IT, and that could be the tip of the spear into a better development job as you learn more. Those jobs are highly coveted and easy to get from all around the world, from your computer. You don't have to actually, go into the office. So I think it's just really looking and searching for those opportunities.
Perfect. So in the first year or two of starting a new business, what was that like? Is it just you hustling? Do you have good partners? Is it hard to find partners? And how did you know when it was time to scale up those companies?
So so I've had several companies, and it's always been myself in the beginning, with the exception of Goose and Gander, which I've had Kenneth from the beginning, which has been great. So I would say the first year is really a struggle, because you're still having to work whatever job is paying your bills, right? But you just have to keep at it. I think just resilience, tenacity. It's easy to want to give up. It's easy to go, why am I doing this? It's easy to doubt yourself. I think you have to keep your end goal in mind. And some days you feel like, I'm sure everybody's seen Shawshank Redemption, you're just making the hole bigger over time. And at some point you're going to break through, but it might feel like you're digging for years. I mean, it just feels that way. And I think, unfortunately, I've seen people work hard for several years and then just give up when they're close, if they could just muster it. And I think, having the right partner after you are able to prove out your business model somewhat. So what I did was able to take, okay, here's what I have. Here's, if I had a small investment, here's what I would do with it to go ahead and prove the business model out for a large raise. And so that really helps me, and helped me with We Go Look, to get some of the silent partners who came in early. And they believed in my passion, and they saw, I showed them the trends, back in 2009 of everybody buying online, and I knew it would just skyrocket and more people would be doing things online. I just felt that way anyway. And so that was important. And what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry, Sherry.
It was just, how did you know when it was time to scale up and take it to the next level?
Yeah. So I knew it was time to scale up when you absolutely have, and scale up can mean a couple of things. So when you hiring one person, if you're a team of one and you hire one person, you've doubled your company size. So to me, that's scaling. But you know that time whenever you don't have any extra moments in your day, and you go, man, if I had a couple more hours, I could do this, this, and this. That's when you need to hire help, right? And that can be inexpensive help. But the time for me was when it was time for me to scale up, and when we went through 10x growth, which we had that hockey stick, right? So we're growing, and then that kind of scale. I knew we needed it, and I knew it was time. I secured a couple of really big contracts that were going to take a few months to implement. So when you have really big contracts, they have to go through the legal, obviously the procurement, but then also the integration, and then you have to train and scale. So when you get that contract, you have typically several months notice, and so that's when you're able to hire and train and get ready for that big contract. And then you get one, or you feel like you're going to get it 80% chance you're going to close this deal in 6 weeks. You start ramping up for that contract at that time. So to me, it's a balance. For me, it was a balance. And keep in mind, everybody's different and everybody's experiences are different. So these are just my personal experiences and thoughts. Everybody can do it differently, but it's a juggling act. You can't spend a ton of money when you're bootstrapping to everybody is like, I want a really great office, I want a wine bar. No, we're going to have refurbished furniture. Okay, we're getting ABC furniture. That's what happens. And I've seen that over and over, where people try to scale or get caught up in the thought of it too quickly as well, if that makes any sense. So that for me is the small scaling, and then the extreme scaling. You have to have it when you start having to have more people constantly, and you have to build that training team, you have to build that HR team out. It's like I said, it's kind of a juggling act.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. I really want to thank you for being with us. I really admire the way you've handled everything in your recent, not only your personal life with a life-threatening illness, but also your work life with very public things that have unfolded with the Employment Security Commission. So I congratulate you on just being the person you are and coming through it with so much strength. So thank you for taking time to be here with us today. And I just want to remind you guys, on Tuesday, June 2nd, we have our legislative breakfast. We have all 10 of the Edmond area legislators in attendance that day. They have all confirmed with me, including the Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat, Senator Pugh, Senator Bice, and then all of our state reps as well. So we really look forward to that event on Tuesday. If you're not comfortable in person, you're welcome to join us on Zoom. So that option is available. And as I mentioned earlier this morning on the call, our next Women's Breakfast will also be in person with a Zoom option with our speaker, Dima Ramadan with DBG Construction. So we look forward to seeing you guys at that, hopefully. So thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your involvement, and we hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much.